question that has bugged me since I was about 13, 14 years of age, and that was a long time ago, is why do schools teach us how to find the area of a triangle, but not how to budget and manage our finances? Or in fact spend any time educating younger people on the importance of financial literacy? Why is money management still a mystery for so many young people? And almost purposely set up that way, or that's the way I used to feel. And if you've ever felt lost, stressed, or straight up confused about saving, spending, investing, or anything financial, you're not alone. And my guest today is the co-founder of a company called Frich, and they're here to change all that. Because Frich is the fastest growing money community for Gen Z, and it's using technology to tackle financial literacy in a way that finally makes sense. So today we're going to be talking about why Gen Z keeps getting hit with a once-in-a-lifetime crisis, the biggest money mistakes that we're all making and how to fix them, and yes, how social media is distorting financial reality, what we can do about it, and most importantly of all, why talking about money should be as normal as sending memes to each other in our group chats. So, today I'll make you a promise. No more boring finance lectures, no gatekeeping, just an honest conversation about how to stop avoiding money convos and start feeling more in control. But enough from me. There's an inspiring story behind all of this. So, let's get today's guest onto the podcast now. So thank you for joining me on the podcast today. For everybody listening, hearing about you for the first time, can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, everyone. Super nice to meet you and to be here and chat about just fintech. But I am Aleksandra. I am one of the co-founders of Frich. And Frich is currently the fastest growing money community for Gen Zers in the US. So we are based in New York. And, you know, what we do every single day is just try to make the financial lives of the younger generation a little bit easier and a little more straightforward. So happy to chat about it.
Incredibly cool. I'm looking forward to finding out more about it and everything that you've created here. But before we do, there's got to be a story behind this. What was it that inspired you to start Frich? And was it your own financial experiences that maybe helped shape the app's development? Or was there something completely different? What's the origin story there?
For sure, it is definitely a personal story. I started Frich when I was 22 years old. So, God, yeah, it's like 5 years ago now. So I am barely a Gen Zer anymore. But back then, you know, it was really an origin story between me and my co-founder. We had both, so we're not originally from the US. I'm actually from Latvia and my co-founder is from Estonia. And we had met at university and both of us had like a little bit like, I would say, quote unquote, unconventional stories. She left university to go on to become a professional model. I left university for a little bit to also kind of, I hate to say this, but find myself.
Yeah.
And to, you know, try to really figure out what it means to find your passion, to like commit to something. And we both ended up learning very, very early on what it takes to pursue a career, work in different countries, move around a lot. And eventually we both ended up in New York City. And, you know, coming from small Northeastern European countries and having had lived and worked across many countries, coming to New York and being kind of hit in the face with the financial realities of living here, it's just like an absolute shock. And, you know, we didn't really have parents that could tell us about how a financial system in the US works because our parents obviously are not aware of it. We didn't really have existing friend groups that we could learn from. So it really was this like, on one side, you know, we felt like we did have a lot of experience of seeing how much like money defines our ability and chance to move around and take risks and explore careers and figure out what kind of education you want to take. But on the other hand, we also were very, very much aware of like how lack of money can block you from certain things. So, you know, we were just thinking like, why are people not talking about this more openly? Like, where do we actually get to understand like what does it take financially to live here in New York, and what does it take financially to succeed here, and what do we need to do to live the life that we have imagined for ourselves? So it really just started out of an initial frustration of the fact that no one was really talking about something that is so, so important and unfortunately so central to like every single decision you make in your life. So it is a very, very, very personal origin story. And then obviously it morphed and grew, and yeah.
Love it, man. I absolutely love it. And from there, you went into solution mode. So for anybody listening, hearing about Frich for the first time, what did you create? Would you describe the app and what it offers to Gen Z users and what you set out to do differently?
I mean, what it is today is definitely not what it was in the very early days, and we really have grown and learned so much. But today, I think the core problem that we're solving for is that we're fighting against people's procrastination and just lack of knowledge. So what we're doing is you download the app, or you also don't have to download the app. We also provide a lot of resources from our website or newsletter, but you enter the Frich ecosystem and you tell us a little bit more about yourself. So we start very, very simple. We ask you for your zip code. We ask you like some simple demographical questions so we can just place you in a benchmarking group. And then every day we talk about money just as normal humans would. So, for example, this week, I don't know if you know about this, but apparently March is widely known as the month couples are most likely to break up. So this week
Oh,
we're talking about what does it actually mean if you break up with someone, or if someone breaks up with you? How can you financially make sure that it's not just an emotionally heavy moment, but it doesn't also have to be a financially heavy moment? And by starting money conversations around very, very real human problems that young people are experiencing, we try to contextualize financial products in a way that makes sense and create that urgency to actually get these things done, so we can just stop procrastinating and take action. So we really start with like having just a conversation with you about something that already matters to you. And then we benchmark you against your peers. So let's say, let's say that we're talking about the financial implications of going through a breakup. And by talking about it, we bring up the fact that it is important to have an emergency fund in case you need to take a quick action, find a new apartment, get out of a situation. That introduces us to the idea of like, what is actually an emergency fund? How much money should you have in an emergency fund? Where should you be holding that money? And by doing that, we can now benchmark you and say, okay, like you have in your emergency fund, let's say $1,000. But given what we know about you and what you've told before, most people in your age group have $5,000. So here are some suggestions where Frich can offer you either a better financial tool to prep your emergency fund, or some strategies of how you can build that buffer up just so that you are in like a more sound position. So we use this first very, very emotional, real human experience to introduce a financial product and give you that little bit of like financial literacy and contextualization. And then we compare you to your peers to really have that sense of urgency if you are falling behind. But on the flip side, there's always that half that is above the average. And what we've noticed is that because we don't really know that much about financial literacy and what is it like expected from us financially, and it's a little bit of a rat race, no one ever stops and says, wow, you have an emergency fund? That's amazing. Like, good job. That is really hard to save up your first emergency fund, and you've done it, and that's amazing. So for the group of people that have, more than the average, we're like, actually, amazing. Good job. You're good. You're safe. Like, we hope your relationship goes well, but you are in a situation where if something bad happens, you'll be fine. And we're super happy for you. So that's just like one example of how we talk about money with our community.
And I applaud you for everything that you're doing here, because one of the things that has always baffled me, even when I was much, much younger, that we have everybody leaving education, younger people leaving education, and nowhere in their school year or university, etc., are being taught about the importance of financial literacy. That education piece seems to be completely missing, and the importance of having something simple like an emergency fund there. And we're all almost slaves to money in this world, and not having that education is something that I just don't, I've never been able to get to grips with. And you set out here, you're focusing on Gen Z as your target audience. And what would you say the unique financial challenges that this generation faces today? Anything in particular that really stands out?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think this is uniquely this one generation that just keeps being hit with once in a lifetime crises over and over and over again. And it's really tough. It's really tough to be knocked down and like just stand up again and then just keep going and going and then keep getting knocked down again by someone saying, "Oh wow, once in a lifetime crisis, only for you for the fifth time in a row in your lifetime already." But I mean, God, like so much, like going through COVID, that is, I mean, that's something that I don't know how do you actually like fully recover by that impacting your formative years where just the sense of security you would have within you that you will be financially okay and the system works in your favor. I think this, I actually, I wish I remembered the author so I could credit the author, but I read this really, really interesting deep dive the other day where it talked a lot about the fact that with, all the election stuff that is going on and what is happening politically, especially in the United States, what is happening with the environment, what has happened with COVID, interest rates, like everyone thinking there's going to be a recession, AI, like all these things. And there's just no longer a belief that there's a system that works in your favor, and not having that underlying trust that it's going to work out for you creates a generation that is a little bit, I don't know, for the lack of a better word, like jaded. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, nothing I do matters anymore. I like, no matter what I do, I can't trust that the system is not going to break down on me and I'm going to get what I was promised. Um, so it is, I think it's just a really, really hard time to be young and try to like figure out what you want to do with your life. And I think that's also like part of our job is to force people to set themselves up financially in a way that, is going to bring them a more stable life, but also just to cheer them up a little bit and inspire them and actually start relearning about the importance of thinking in long term. Because I think if you lose this trust that like there is long-term stability and there is like a long-term game plan, like you start indulging in very, very negative behaviors. Like you see so much about people doom spending or getting into like really bad credit card debt because it's almost like, tomorrow doesn't matter. It might not come, So, yeah, I think it is a little bit of uniquely tough time.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And when you look back and write all those things down, you mentioned there, a global pandemic, high interest rates, the rise of AI, global conflict, unstable political systems, and environmental problems, and then you retreat and sit down feeling depressed. Pick up your phone, and then social media is often glamorizing luxury lifestyles. Somebody that's showing their highlights of living their best life. That creates even more pressure to keep up. What am I doing wrong? So another thing that I wanted to applaud on what you're doing here is you're countering this narrative with more authentic, community-driven data. Could you expand on that for me as well?
Yeah, I think you actually gave me a super great in for this, but there is this insane disconnect between like what is actually happening in people's lives and what they see on social media.
Mm.
So, well, I think maybe now the media has maybe more traditional media has moved away from it. But for like a couple of years, they were really on the case for millennials. And they were like, oh my God, if only they stopped eating avocado toast, they would have so many houses. And then, they kind of like gave up on it and they were like, oh my God, Gen Z is the worst generation. They have no attention span. They don't work hard. They don't go to school. They're blah, blah, blah. They're this, they're that. They're just always on TikTok. And on one side, you see like traditional media and, institutions just continuously like pushing you down and saying all these horrible things about you as just a vast generation. And on the other hand, you see social media and you're like, oh, I guess I should be going on one trip a month to like a Mediterranean island. And if I'm not going, what am I doing wrong? Like, how is everyone else being able to afford this? Like, what is happening? Like, how am I really that bad version of Gen Z that the traditional media is describing? And like, what am I doing wrong? And I think that is like one of those questions that we can truly answer through like real community driven data, is that you're actually not doing anything wrong. Like, you're seeing the 0.001% that is probably living off of a trust fund, or is incredible credit card debt, or is, like an influencer and they're getting these things for free. So having like just a more real reflection of what is actually happening around your community, like, one, celebrates things that you're already doing well instead of just putting you in that rat race of always feeling like you're not good enough. But then also just setting very realistic goals. So instead of seeing something on social media and being like, oh, well, how dare I fly economy and not a private jet? Instead, you're like, oh, actually, maybe I should try to boost my emergency savings from $1,000 to $5,000. And that is actually a realistic goal. So I think that is something that we've been trying really, really hard to bring in. And especially, I mean, we've weathered a lot of bubbles. But, for example, now with AI, everyone's always talking about like, oh, just like let AI do everything for you. Let AI figure out, let AI write a letter for you. Let AI create a budget for you. Let AI create a life plan for you. But there is still something to like real human connection and real, like, bringing back the ability to learn from each other and see just how real humans experience money. So that's something that we're trying to bring back with like the real community insights, and not saying that we're there yet and we found like the ideal way of doing it, but that is something that like we really want to stay true to, and keep expanding the product and keep adding additional value through it.
And you're doing just that. You've been diving into traditionally taboo money topics, and everything from how you split bills to receiving financial support from parents, etc. And I think what the role you're doing here is just priceless, and in helping your peers there. So why do you think these conversations are so important for Gen Z? Because I, for one, don't get to hear them or see them, and I think it's brilliant what you're doing here in uniting them. But why would you say it's so important?
It's almost like we're not allowed to admit that money really is pivotal to every single thing in our lives. And it's this shame that we carry around. So on one hand, there's people that are feeling ashamed that they're getting support from parents. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's people that feel shamed that they are not able to have a type of family that can support them. So just having honest conversations and just coming to grips that we're just born into what we're born into, and we can learn from each other, and we can just admit that it is really important to learn how to manage money, because money is going to, especially when you're younger, but as you grow older, it just comes back in different ways. It just reimagines itself. But whether or not you learn how to deal with student loans, or learn how to deal with setting up your emergency fund, or learning about a credit score is going to affect what degree you get, or what kind of career risks you take, or what city you move to, or what friend groups you end up in, or if you take a risk on starting like a side hustle that might become something bigger. And I think it's a little bit, in my opinion, a shame that we don't really talk about it, because if we talked about it a lot more openly, we would also share our learnings with each other. So if you felt more comfortable asking me, okay, Aleksandra, how did you move to New York when you were 22? Like, how did you figure it out financially? How did you start a company if you don't even have a job? Like, how did you do that? Then I could honestly tell you, and then you would be like, oh, well, if you could do that with no money, maybe I can also take a risk, and maybe it would also come back with great rewards. So I really think that if people are just a little bit more, they just like demystify money a little bit, then people are more likely to take risks that calculated risks that would come back hopefully with greater rewards as well.
100%. And something we don't talk about enough is, despite economic challenges and that long list of adversity that we've all been through, Gen Z is extremely resilient and have got strong earning potential. And one of the things that I love more than anything is this entrepreneurial spirit. So how do you at Frich equip them to help them capitalize on this as well? Because there's so much to be hopeful and positive about too.
Yeah. I mean, I think one is that our job is always to set you up financially. So if you have like a somewhat strong financial basis, you are in a position where you can take a risk. You could take some time off of work, or you can invest a little bit of your emergency fund into starting a business. So it's like, you just have to admit that you need to have a little bit of money to just start spinning off some kind of entrepreneurial undertaking. But the other thing is that we try our best to, for example, one of the things that we have is we have this section where people can send in questions, and we invite experts from all around to really go deep in answering the question and giving all these free resources and talk through their own experiences and talk through their own mistakes. And on one hand, this is a really, really great rebuke to everyone saying that Gen Zers don't have attention spans, because if you talk about it in a way that matters to them, they do. Like, of course we do. Like, we also want to learn about things. But by showing people realistic stories of others going through the same process, and what tools they used, and what sacrifices it took, and what steps they took, that is one of the better ways, in my opinion, to inspire someone to take that leap. Because if I'm just seeing like 30-second videos on social media about how one day you had nothing and then suddenly you had everything, I'm like, but wait, what about the days in between? Like, what happened here? So we really are trying to shine a light on the days in between. So if you do take the leap, like, you push through the heavy days, because there's always obviously going to be the harder days. And like you said, there's so much opportunity these days. There's a whole new industry coming from nothing with AI, and we have access to so many tools that are like almost free of charge, that you can really spin off like whatever your imagination can create. So there's already so many resources, but one of the things that is the hardest right now is that you're overwhelmed with all the options. So having someone curate these things for you and sort of, just like do a little bit of fact checking for you. Like, is this actually really the right path to go down on? Or just talk through of like, okay, like, here are some things that today this person is really successful, but here are some things that like they struggled with, and here are some things they wish they had done before. And then linking all these things for them to quickly take a look and really like encourage people to take that action and take that first step. So, I really, really hope that, we can encourage a new generation of entrepreneurs, no matter what scale. I think small businesses and small business owners really are the ones that create the most interesting and inspiring things.
Love it. And as this is a tech podcast, I've got to ask you, tell me more about the technology behind Frich and how that helps deliver these personalized financial recommendations to its users. Probably invisible to many of the users, but anything exciting that you can talk about there on the tech side of things?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. At the end of the day, it is an app, and it's, I mean, we work really, really, really hard on making sure that the brand and the tone of voice and everything is like very human and very um understanding of our user base. But at the end of the day, it's just like a huge data business, right? Because we have people coming in, we have them telling us a little bit about themselves, and we initially benchmark them based on those initial demographic data. But then every single day, we ask them a question about their money and we learn about them. We keep updating the benchmarking group that they fall into. We keep showing different people that they compare to. We keep giving them more and more opportunity to go through other people's profiles anonymously and see how did this person achieve something that I wanted? Like, what is their journey towards it? We also let you link your bank account. So that is something that you can't really do off anywhere else, to my knowledge, where you can link your bank account and then you can see category by category how your spending compares to the people around you, right? So instead of Googling, oh, how can I save money? And it says, oh, just don't buy coffee. You're like, cool. So I saved $10. That's great. You can actually have a holistic overview of your finances and you can catch things when you start looking category by category. Maybe you are in a bubble where you have come to believe that going out with your friends every night is normal, where obviously it's not. And if you see that you're spending 3x more than most other people and dining out, maybe this is something that you need to start paying more attention to. So there's a lot of data going out on there. And then on the other side, we still try to keep alive very much the sort of newsletter and website part of it that has more of the like long form human touch, like Frich speaking to you, giving you all these insights and stories. So
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, you're also using gamification, interactive features, things like daily polls, and I would imagine that really helps increase engagement. But what kind of feedback have you received from your community, and how that's being used and taken in?
yeah, I mean, I think we started growing specifically through universities, and the feedback there was really positive. People were really liked it, obviously the the opportunity to anonymously see what people around you are thinking about these taboo questions, especially when you're like freshly coming into university, is a really, really comforting feeling. But quite interestingly, when we stopped intentionally going through universities, because the university was the first place where we were like, oh, if we get enough people, it creates this ecosystem where like the data actually is like it resonates with you. It has to be like very, very specific to just like campus life. But once we stopped going to universities because we had reached the sort of tipping point there, we noticed that more and more elderly Gen Zers were finding us. And that was a really, really interesting thing to notice, that actually it was a lot of people that were 25, 26, 27 coming and finding Frich because they were in that other stage in their life where maybe they already have had their first job, but now they're like shifting gears and they're really trying to like set themselves up for success, and the realities of adulthood are slowly sinking in. So that's also when we started talking about more serious topics, such as like, okay, like you're getting your first real paycheck, like what do you do now? How do you plan for retirement? We've talked a lot also, I mean, in this day and age with climate, politics, everything, how do you plan for a family? Do you want a family? How much is it going to cost you, especially in the United States, So that organic shift of who finds us has been really, really interesting to observe. And it has obviously also morphed our product, and we have ended up growing with our users as well, quite organically. So, yeah, it's been overwhelmingly positive. People love the raw data, like especially the transaction stuff. I mean, just people are so nosy. Of course, you love to like go through and see what other people are spending on things. But yeah.
Oh man, well, I love how you're leveraging technology to help Frich's mission to make financial literacy not just accessible but also relatable. And I'm curious, what would you say are some of the biggest barriers to financial education for Gen Z, and how are you attempting to address some of those barriers? You probably experienced a lot of them when you were younger too, but I would imagine that new problems arise as well. So what's happening here?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple of things. Like one, I would say maybe when I was still, if I had to like reflect, like what was my experience 10 years ago, I would say that it was just this, like finance felt like this faraway land that like wasn't for me. It was only for real adults that have real money that speak this like random weird language. And neither me or my co-founder studied finance or anything like that. So that is actually our strong suit, is that we view personal finance just as any other person would, not, a Wall Street executive. And I think that is one part of the problem, that it still feels very, very alienating. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of jargon there. There's a lot of just intimidation, especially maybe for like, I mean, it is definitely changing, but especially for like younger women, I think there is like a feeling that like, oh, this is not meant for me. Or like they're just like the misunderstanding that, oh, it only matters to think about these things when I'm making quote unquote real money.
Mm.
Like I don't have enough money to care about personal finance. I think that would be one. The other one that I think is more acute for like young people today is the rise of all these like personal finance influencers that are not regulated, and there's like no one really holding them back from saying things that are not true. And that is so difficult to navigate. Like, how are you supposed to know how to vet what they're saying, or how to like compare different pieces of content? Because, obviously, the way content performs on social media is whether or not it's clickbaity, and whether or not people are sharing it or saving it, and whether or not like it's trending in some way. So, most things that really, really matter in your personal finance journey, they're not clickbaity. Like nothing about a high yield savings account is clickbaity. It is really like it is a hard. I understand both sides. I understand for a personal finance creator, like it's really hard to create meaningful content and make a living out of it. And for a user, it's really hard to know who's telling the truth. And there's so many content creators out there being like, oh, buy this meme coin and you will become a millionaire tomorrow. I mean, like you only have to get burnt by it once and you will never ever trust anyone ever again. So it's just like it's on one hand, it's this really, really weird situation where on one hand, like the institutions of like schools and whatever public systems are not giving you enough information, and then social media is giving you too much, and you're just in the middle being like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Who do I trust? So yeah, I think it's uniquely tricky to navigate that today.
Such a great point. And I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to share with me today. Maybe you can offer a few teasers, but what's next for Frich? Is there any exciting features, partnerships, or expansions on the horizon? Anything you can offer us that we can have a rough idea, or anyone from your community will know what's coming on the horizon? Anything you can share?
Yeah, I'm actually very, very excited for 2025. Last year was a super, super great year for us, but this year we're really, really investing a lot of resources to like meaningfully grow like the whole content and resources and tools section beyond just the app. So I am fully aware that the app is available only in the US and only on iOS for now. But we want to make sure that everyone can access this. So we're really investing a lot in there. So no matter where you live, no matter what kind of device you have, you can access that. And we've also made some really, really great hires in the last couple of months. So super excited to keep the product getting better and better. Really investing in like our data architecture, just making sure that we can keep providing like the most unique value to each user. And yeah, we are working on some really, really cool campaigns with some partners where I think people are going to really like it. We are doing quite a lot of work around, which is a topic that resonates very, very much with our user base, around money and mental well-being. Because obviously it is a really, really one of the biggest stressors for young people. So very, very excited for that work there. So yeah, that's all you get for now.
Oh, wow. You've left us a lot of teasers there. We're going to have to get you back on later in the year, see how things are evolving. So a quick reminder, no matter where anyone's listening in the world, where can they find more information about Frich, whether it be downloading the app or going on the web and just having a look around at the kind of thing that you're doing? And I expect there's a few social channels, maybe even a TikTok channel of you making this all sound cool too. Where should people listening go?
Yeah, you can download the app on App Store. So it's Frich, F-R-I-C-H. Actually, the name stands for F in Rich. So maybe that's an easier way to remember. And then the website is Get Frich. So get rich with us. And then on social media, you can find us under the username of Frich app.
Man, I'm kicking myself for not asking for the origin story on the name and what that means now, but a great way to close out our conversation today. I applaud you for everything that you're doing here. It's such an important topic, and a topic that is sadly left from the global education system. There's a rabbit hole to go down on another day, but more than anything, just thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I think it doesn't matter what age you are. Money is confusing, frustrating, and yep, weirdly taboo. But it doesn't have to be. As Aleksandra said there, the more we talk about money, the better we handle it. So yeah, let's stop talking about the money situation to social media, flex culture. It's all fake. It's just somebody else's highlight reel. Let's talk about money with friends, because that ultimately equals smarter financial moves, right? By starting small, tracking spending, setting tiny goals. These are positive money habits that we can build. And most importantly, it is never too early to get your money right, especially if you're going to be living life on your terms. So if you want real, unfiltered financial conversations, check out Frich. Start making those smarter moves with your money. Let's change the game together. Whether you are part of the Gen Z community, or maybe you are a parent listening, thinking this might help my kids. And what am I actually doing for my kids in helping them improve their financial literacy? Because don't leave it to the education system. Trust me, as we all know, that doesn't happen. Maybe Frich could play a part in that. As always, let me know your thoughts. techblogwriter@outlook.com. Get me on the socials. LinkedIn, Instagram, X, just at Neil C. Hughes. Nice and easy to find. Let me know your thoughts about today, and we'll keep this conversation going. Other than that, I'll be back again tomorrow with another inspiring story. Hopefully, you'll join me again then. Bye for now.